Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be going over artist tips for Instagram. If you would like to grow as an artist and you can't afford an art class, we've got everything you need here at Art Prof: critiques, tutorials, and professional development. We are going to be reviewing two Instagram accounts. The first one is Kawther Elmadani. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. And the second account is going to be Vivian Smith. So let's get started looking at Kawther's Instagram. And I'm just going to do a total cold read. And then after a few minutes, I'll read to you a little bit of Kawther's statement. The first thing I want to look at is just the top profile over here. And I think this is really great. Sweden-based artist. I think it's always nice to hear what country people are from. And I'm not so sure you need to write former student of interior design, because I think in general, people don't like to hear that things are out of date. It's sort of like when you go to a website and you see the word archive under menu, it makes me just think, oh, that's old. That's not that important right now. And so Kawther, I think maybe a way to build that into your bio, into a more positive frame, is to say experience with interior design or interior designer turned artist, something that is a little bit more positive. And then here it says artist. I think it's a little awkward that in the profile, I don't know what type of artist you are. And so I think a little bit of a description about the media that you work in, maybe something about the subject matter, because there's a lot of artists out there. And so the question is, can you make yourself distinctive in that one sentence? Because this is very precious real estate. You only have this one space to say something about yourself before people actually dig into the content. All right, so let me tell all of you a little bit about Kawther. Kawther says she's a self-taught artist, but for many years, she didn't have time to practice. And so Kawther says, last year with the pandemic, I started to practice more frequently. I started with stippling, and after a while, I felt that I needed to try other media, so I started with oil painting. And by the way, the links to Kawther and Vivian's Instagrams are in the video description below, as are their artist statements. So Kawther explains, the struggle I'm facing is when I feel that what I make isn't good enough, or I don't really know where the mistakes are and where I need to practice on. Does anybody here relate? I suspect that everybody in the chat has felt at some point that what you make isn't good enough. And having to put things on social media doesn't tend to make that any easier. In fact, it tends to make it a lot harder. And so Kawther says, my goal is to keep practicing and become a professional artist. Okay, what I would say about feeling that the work isn't good enough is that you don't have to post everything. In fact, you may want to try to consolidate and not post as often, but know that when you do post, the impact is a lot more dramatic. I think that that is actually important, because posting really often isn't good if you're not feeling positive about the work. And so you may want to cut back a little bit on the posting. And let's go here and look at some of the Instagram highlights. And actually, I really would highly recommend, if you have work that, oh, I'm just playing around, or I did this exercise, like something that's not really a major part of your studio practice, the Instagram highlights are such a great place for that, where you can just dump stuff and not worry about it looking very curated. And so that's a great way on Instagram that you can separate artwork that is very casual, like sketches, from the more curated feed that you're putting together. All right. I think it's a little odd that all your highlights are these variations of yellow, and then there's this one character that says animation. I'm not a big fan of having highlights that are all the same color or shade, because first of all, it makes it hard to identify which is which. I mean, these are all pretty different. You've got charcoal, works in progress, art corner, calligraphy. And yet when I look at this, it all lumps into one thing, which is tricky. And then this is awkward because this sticks out, but not necessarily in a positive way. So let's just click on this and see what the highlights are like. Very cool. If you don't recognize this, this is from our ball bounce animation tutorial that we did with Cian Larquerie. So really cool to see you doing this. All right, so these are images of charcoal pieces. I don't know that these need to be videos. Like, I love this. This is a beautiful shot of your materials. But I think for me to really justify a video on Instagram, the motion better be pretty interesting. Like here, you're using this eraser, but I'm not seeing a pretty dramatic change. All right, this is fun and casual. A quick tip on photographing artwork. If you're using media like charcoal, that is very obviously black and white, make sure that you go back in and you desaturate this. You could do that on your phone. Just use the mono filter, because I can already see there that the drawing's a little bit yellow, which doesn't look so great. Yeah, like this, I think is much better as a video because we see the brush actually dip in here. I think that that shows more visible movement. And what I would say is you probably want to edit your videos more aggressively. We have been playing around with YouTube Shorts, and something I have learned very fast is that 1 second in a short can be too long. I know that sounds insane, but tell me in the chat, when you're watching a video on TikTok or YouTube Short, every second matters. And the learning curve was steep for me because I did not comprehend this. But now that I've edited a bunch of them, I have realized it's like that 1 second is super precious. And you have to think about it that way when you're shooting shorts or Instagram reels or something like that. Amir says, I hate how artists are branded as content creators on social media. It pressures us to post too regularly. Most artists can't keep up such a tempo. That's true. There are ways to cheat a little bit. I think that one way you can cheat, you can use Throwback Thursday. So if you don't have anything new to post, you can say, hey, everybody, this is a drawing that I did 3 years ago. I'd like to show you how far I've come. You can do things like this. And like I said before, posting a lot is not necessarily better. I think the more important thing is to post consistently. So it's better for you to post once a week very consistently than to post a lot and then get in a sticky situation where all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I ran out of stuff. Now I have nothing to post for 2 weeks. Like, that's not so good. Really, it's about consistency. And to be honest, it's boring sometimes. I mean, it's tiresome because you feel like you're on this treadmill, like you have to keep going. That's what is so hard about it, is just the persistence of it. So Kawther, I really love your studio shots. I feel that in here, I'm really getting a sense of who you are. In fact, I would even argue that maybe some of these could be posts, because these really are beautiful behind the scenes. Okay, so we have calligraphy here. And I'm trying to see where this fits into your Instagram. This is beautiful. This image where you integrate your watercolor painting with the calligraphy. I feel a little less interested in the pieces like this that are just straight calligraphy, but this is wonderful. And actually, Kawther, I want to see if you have any of that in your feed. Okay, you have a video here. And here we see you dunking the pen. Okay. The calligraphy is gorgeous. In fact, I would love to see much more of that because that's unique. I don't see that all the time. Like here, where you add the text. Because another thing I was going to say about the account is that this technique, the pen drawing with watercolor splashed across it, it's a pretty common technique that I see all over the place. The place that I really see it is on Urban Sketchers. Urban Sketchers is this artist association. It's huge. It's international. And it's basically people who paint on site all over the world. And it's an amazing collection of artists from across the world. But I will say that this technique, the pen with the watercolor, it's really common. And while there is a large variety on this page, I mean, there's certainly pen drawings and charcoal drawings and other media. You can see as I scroll through the Instagram, these paintings with the pen and the watercolor, they show up a lot. And so I just would be very conscious of how you can own this technique a little bit more. And I really think, Kawther, it's in the calligraphy that you can do that. And I'm more interested in the calligraphy that is more integrated into the artwork. So for example, this one where you're drawing over the painting is beautiful. Or this one where the text really is its own shape that relates to the image, where some of the ones that you have down here, the handwriting here, it's sort of just tacked on the side. So I would encourage you, make some pieces that more fully integrate the calligraphy and the watercolor, because that is something I don't see everywhere. This I do see. This is a lot more common. We have some comments from Cerulean, who says, I really like how Kawther has such an extensive highlight section. Yeah, people really like Instagram highlights. Tell me in the chat, who here likes Instagram highlights and why? What's fun about them? In some ways, I like them more. They're more casual. They're not as curated. Oftentimes, the variety is a lot more dramatic. Sometimes people tend to keep their feeds a lot more similar because they want that cohesion. But I think sometimes the drawback is it's not as fun as what's happening in the Instagram highlights. Cosma says, every second counts with video, especially the first one, has to be catchy enough for our short attention spans. I don't know about all of you, but I'm horrified by my attention span because there's a statistic. They say that people decide within 7 seconds if they're going to continue to watch a video. I watched myself on TikTok the other day. This is terrible. For me, it was 3 seconds. You've got 3 seconds to convince me that I'm not going to be waiting around to see the thing that really matters. So for example, here, that's great. Okay. The way this video starts, you just dunk right in. But the thing is, now I'm getting a little bored because you linger with the pen and it takes a while to get here. So if I were to go back to this video, I would say, okay, dunk, boom, cut right then and there. Okay. There, I just cut out a whole 2 seconds. We should get there immediately. Gargi says, I'm still exploring mediums and styles. I'm still not specific about mediums or styles. So what kind of description can I write on my Instagram bio? You could just list them. You could say, I'm an artist interested in, let's say for Kawther, calligraphy, watercolor, pen, and ink. That's fine. You can just list them. I don't think that you need to frame it as, oh, I haven't decided yet. You just say, these are the things that I enjoy working with. Raw Nook says, I can see this consistency thing working. There's an illustrator I follow, and he posts these tutorials every Tuesday, and everyone just waits for them every week. Yep. And actually, we are going to do a similar overhaul in June, and there's going to be more details about it pretty soon, but we're actually going to be cutting back on our stream. So we're not going to stream daily. Instead, we're going to stream 4 days a week, Sunday through Thursday. And that's going to give us more time to interact with all of you on the Discord. And we're going to be able to put out more shorts, more consolidated versions so that our videos are more a range of different lengths. So there's going to be a lot of changes around here soon, but hopefully it's for the better. And hopefully what we're trying to do is just to increase our interaction with you. Cosma says, what's a good balance between artwork and behind the scenes images? Well, let's look at how Kawther has that organized. It seems like the majority of these are in progress. I guess this one, okay, this one's finished. So this is in a frame and this is beautiful. Kawther, I would definitely look at Via Selmans. Let me put the name in the chat because the spelling's a little bit strange. Via Selmans, who does these beautiful pencil drawings of surfaces, of planets, and water. This reminds me a lot of her work because of the way you have such a delicate quality to your drawing. I would say for you, Kawther, I would recommend cutting back a little bit on the works in progress images. Now, there are some that are better than others. So let me see one that I think is working really well as a works in progress. There was one back here that I thought was real. This one. This is really lovely. I just think as a photo, it's just really nicely composed. There's all these great diagonals. I like seeing the little watercolor cakes. The coffee cup gives it a little bit of personality. The lighting's not great. I mean, I can tell this is some artificial light or something like that. I would tell everybody here, if you're shooting photos for anything, for Instagram, try to use natural light. Natural light makes everything look better. A lot of you have probably seen our Flickr page. Everything I shoot on our Flickr page, which is our free reference photo collection, it's all natural light. I never use lamps. I mean, I could, but it's more work and it doesn't look as good. And so try to do that. So this one's really nicely composed, but in my opinion, this is not one of your better studio shots because look at this, almost half of the photo is just black. It's not necessary. So at the very least, this should be cropped so we don't have all that space. But also, the lighting's inconsistent and the distortion, the angle that we're looking at the photo is a little bit awkward. Yeah, like this one's awkward too because it's not like visibly a diagonal, but it's also not lined up either. So you want to make sure, yeah, like, okay, so this is a great photo. I love this photo. I wish I had this one as the front and then maybe some closer up images. So in this carousel, this is a great photo. I would take out this, and I would crop this. So it's like these three images, they're all really similar. Like, am I really gaining new information when I look at these three? Not really. My perception of the artwork has not changed. And so you want to ask yourself, if I'm doing a carousel, can I really justify all of those images that are in there? Shrina says, I saw on social media that only, quote, aesthetically pleasing accounts have like thousands of followers, which started as a quarantine hobby, but real artists are ignored. Well, it's not that real artists are ignored. It's that marketing yourself on Instagram, it has nothing to do with how good of an artist you are. It's a separate skill. And a lot of people think, oh, well, Instagram's a visual platform. We're artists. We're probably going to be really good at it. No, it's like saying, oh, you speak Russian fluently. You must be able to speak Chinese fluently as well. It's like, no, it's a totally different language. And so what you have is some people who are like really good at doing Instagram, but maybe their artwork's not that great. You have other people who have great artwork, but they're just not good at using Instagram. And I know lots of artists who are like that, or people say, oh gosh, I don't have the energy for this, which I totally get. And it depends on your priorities. For some people, Instagram is not a priority, and that's fine. For some people, it's a big part of their life, and that's fine too. You just have to decide what is the best fit for you. And I would just say, make sure that when you use Instagram, that it's not a toxic situation. We do have this video, which is a basics guide to social media that you can look at for just best practices, but just make sure it's not hurting your studio practice or making you feel bad about yourself, that's not a good thing. And you shouldn't be on there out of obligation, but then resenting it, because it shows. Like, people can tell that you don't like it, and that's not a good thing. MJ says, this is the first stream of yours I've seen. Found this account a few days ago. Loving it. You've inspired me to continue art. Well, great. I'm so glad that you found us recently. Oh, Kawther is live in the chat. Very cool. I'm so happy that you're here live. And tell me if I'm mispronouncing your name, which I'm kind of guessing I am. Sorry about that. Kesem says, I'm a mixed media artist. I do a variety of different stuff, sometimes combined. Too long to list with the word limit. You don't have to list everything. Just list a few. And that's enough for people to understand, oh, you don't just work in one media. That's the important thing. Yeah, and somebody else said here about the writing. Seven Angelic says, just noticed the writing was Shakespeare. So, Kawther, I don't know what your experience is in literature, but I'm going to assume if you've got Shakespeare in there, you must like it to some degree. And I'm wondering, Kawther, are any of your illustrations or paintings, are any of these related to Shakespeare? Oh, okay. So this one says, started reading H.C. Andersen stories every night. One of my favorite things to do. Kawther, I would love to see more of that, more of your interest in literature, because that's making you stand out. Because these other images, for example, this is a church in Copenhagen. It's beautifully done. I mean, you have very, very good pen technique. Technique is not an issue for you. But the thing is, it's like you ask yourself, well, how many people, if you look at urban sketchers, are sort of doing the same thing, going out, finding architecture and drawing. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, if you want to stand out, you have to have something else to say beyond I'm here sketching. And to me, the pieces that really do that are the pieces with the calligraphy, the literature, like this one is Dostoevsky. And I think the images of Frida Kahlo and Vincent van Gogh, okay, I know people like them, but you guys, there's so many other artists out there. Like, I don't know, like, it just bothers me when I go into these art teacher Facebook groups and every project is Picasso, Vincent van Gogh, and Frida Kahlo, and Yayoi Kusama, the contemporary artist who does polka dots. And I'm like, that's cool, but come on, can we do a little more? Like, they've had plenty of screen time, and I just think we can do more than that. Okay, let me scroll back up and see if there's any more of the Shakespeare pieces. Okay, I would love to see you illustrate these stories, Kawther, because I love the work that you're doing there. Cosba is saying, what is the proper order to use in a carousel? So in a carousel, you want to have the first image to be the most eye-catching image. So actually, let me go to the Art Prof Instagram, because I posted a carousel yesterday. And if you look at this carousel, this is from the sculpt-along that I did yesterday on feet. Okay, so if you look at the first one, this is the most close-up image. You can see the hand, which explains that the image is a tutorial, something where it's happening. Okay, here's the reference photo. Here's the setup. More reference photos. These are the little noodles that I make. So like, this would be a terrible first image because it's kind of ugly. Like nobody, but it's fun from an educational point of view. Like I do think that people like seeing the reference photos. I think they like seeing this. I think they do. Tell me if I'm wrong. But this would be terrible as the first image because it doesn't explain what the carousel is really about. So you can see why out of all the images in the carousel, this is the one that explains immediately what's happening and is the most eye-catching in terms of the visuals. Cerulean is asking, should we frequently take a photo of our work for Instagram as a tableau surrounded by pens, art materials, flowers? I haven't really done that. It does make things a lot more personal, that's for sure. So if we go back and we look at Kawther's piece, what's nice about this is I don't need to read the text caption, but I can see the brush. And I think people want to see that. I think people want to know what type of brush it is. You guys have no idea how many comments there are on our gouache tutorial with Alex and me. What kind of brush is it? It's like every other comment is like, what kind of brush is this? And that's in a tutorial where you can see the brush. And so it just gives a little more personality. And I think other things that are fun, like this one where you can see the clip, you can see the scenery, it just contextualizes the artwork. And actually, Kawther, I love this image, but it's very blue. So you're going to want to color correct it. You're going to make it brighter. Take the time to really fix your photos, because if you don't have a good photo, it's really hard for people to appreciate the work, because this is a beautiful drawing, but the photo itself is not that great. Apollo, Jake and Will says, I will say many of the highly followed illustrators talk about the importance of adding props. I think it just personalizes it, because I do see Instagram accounts where people treat the Instagram like it's a website. And the thing is, your Instagram is not a website. Your website is the website, right? And that can be more of a curated presence. Social media is where you hang out. It's where you engage, where you interact. Like, nobody interacts on a website. Like, who here comments on websites? Nobody. You don't. You go and you look at them once in a while. Social media, the artists I follow, I look at their stuff all the time, but maybe I've gone to their website once in the past 2 months. And so you have to ask yourself, how can my Instagram and website work side by side? How do they enhance each other while being distinctive at the same time? So if your Instagram just replicates what's on your website, what's the point of even having it? Also, this is a great point from Fab Geek, who says, I like seeing the brush and pencil against a piece to see scale. Absolutely, because in a photo, if I have, for example, an image like this, oh, this is a video, like this, where there's no tool, I have no idea. And scale is something that profoundly changes the way that people see things. You have another video here, Kawther, which is basically showing the apple. And I like it as a video, but I think you have to color correct it and crop. Like, there's a lot of space up here at the top. Also, I would say on Instagram for video, if you can, it's much better to have a square video, because you just don't have all that extra stuff unless you have a vertical video that really utilizes that entire space. Apollo says, in progress seems to do better as a short reel than as a photo, ASMR and all that. I know. Good comment from Seven Angelic, who said, I'd love to see her work as an illustrated book, like a fairy tale or something. Yes, I think you would be wonderful at that, Kawther. And so what I would just say is maybe just cut back on the urban sketching a little bit, because you're already so good at that. You've proven to us that you've got the skills, but the narrative has not been explored as much, and that's what you're really good at. Alice in Wonderland says, how long is too long for a caption? Should it be more personal or more about the technical side of the artwork? I think it's really nice to have a little bit of technique in there, just so people know what they're looking at. But I think the personal captions are much better. Now, here's the thing, though. It really depends on the person, okay? So let me just show you on my account. I'm sort of the opposite of all the advice that I typically give people. My text captions are really long. And the reason why is because for me, my Instagram replaced my blog. I wrote a blog for many, many years. It's still there. You guys can go find it. It's on WordPress. And so I wrote these long, long articles, and I'm somebody who has a lot of practice writing, and I'm known for the writing. And so that's good for me. On the other hand, I know Jordan, who's a teaching artist here on Art Prof, he oftentimes has very short captions. Like this one, he says, I've been wanting to do a painting of Chadwick Boseman. He was an inspiration to millions, including myself, was taken from us way too soon. That's enough. You don't need to do more than that. I just think that people sometimes, they feel the pressure to write. And I'm like, listen, don't write if you don't like it. And especially if you're not good at it. I'm sorry, you guys, but when people don't write well, it just drives me crazy. And I'm just like, oh, this is not really worth it. So it's like either say something fast, get yourself out of there, or do something else. Okay, let's go back to Kawther's work. Vitamin says, I started trying to grow my Insta. I made aesthetic mood boards and collages in Canva, and in some of it I put in my artworks, but I'm afraid that I'll lose my works in these collages. Well, maybe it's time to take a step back. Try making some work with less, and maybe it's collages of your own artwork that you're doing. I mean, I was doing that the other day in the sketchbook draw along. I just took a bunch of photos that I had and I made a collage from it. And so I knew it was my work that I was collaging. So sometimes it's a good way to do that. So Tiago says, I love long captions. I really like to read more about a piece. I do too, as long as it's not, hey, this was fun. I really like drawing this. Tomorrow I might draw some more. Do you guys like it? Please give me some comments. Tell me what you think. Like, I really have to learn something in the text that the photo does not tell me. And so you have to think about not repeating yourself. If you say something in the text caption that we've already figured out from the photo, that's not very helpful. Brittany says, do you have any tips for experimentation and growth on social media? It seems like there isn't room for work outside of what an artist is known for. There is. Use your highlights. Your highlights are where you can just dump whatever and not worry about that. And then the other option is some people have, is it Finsta or Rinsta? I can't remember which one it is, but some people have a more personal art account where they just dump more experimental stuff. And that's for like your hardcore fans. And then you can have a more curated account. So maybe sometimes that Instagram account can be that place where you feel more free to mess around. Muhammad says, absolutely proud of Kawther, so inspired by Art Prof to carry on with my old passion for photography. Do it. Now is the time. People say to me all the time, is it too late to be an artist? Nope. As long as you can make work, does not matter where you are. And there's no such thing as, oh, I lost all those years, I have to start up. No, you're just adding more to yourself, which is great. Now, San K, another opinion. I don't read the long captions. Texts are too small on my phone, gives me eye strain. Instagram is definitely for scrolling more than reading. That's true. And you have to be conscious of that. So just tell yourself that while you can write a long text caption, you do need the photos to speak for themselves. So if you have crappy photos and a really eloquently written text caption, that's not going to work on Instagram because it is a visual platform. Apollo says, I'd suggest TikTok for experimentation. It's newer, a lot more bite-sized, plus the algorithm is forgiving. We just started using TikTok. It's just at Art Prof if you want to check it out. And I am so all over the place. I'm experimenting, I'm playing around, but I know that's part of the process. Like nobody just shows up on Instagram or TikTok and just knows how to do it. You have to mess up so much. And I posted some crappy TikTok videos and I realized really quickly what was wrong with them. They were too long and I wasn't cutting quickly enough. It didn't fit the style of what people expect to see on TikTok. And so I deleted a bunch. I uploaded some new ones. I revised them. That's part of it. Okay. Nobody here knows how to do it immediately. Tiago says, you have any tip for 3D art on Instagram? I would do a lot of carousels because I know, especially Tiago, we've reviewed your work here at Art Prof. And I know that your work is very involved and you have beautiful works in progress images. So use those carousels because you can really show that. Yasmin's asking, can you check my account? If you would like to be considered for a free Instagram or website review, go down to the video description below. There is a link for where you can submit your work to be considered. Okay, let's move on, and we're going to look at Vivian's Instagram. And again, I'm going to start with just a cold read on the profile, and then I'll read to you some of Vivian's artist statement. Okay, first thing I would notice, this is a really long handle, Vivian, and I really think you should change it. There is no way I'm going to remember that. And maybe this is just my pet peeve, but when there's more than one underscore, it drives me crazy. It's really hard to remember something that's that long. So I would just recommend either use your name, or maybe it's something really short, like In the Heart, which I'm probably guessing is already taken, but it's got to be way, way shorter, because so many times people have told me, oh yeah, this is my Instagram. And if it's too difficult, it's out of my head. Jarek Kozowska, who's a children's book illustrator, he's so smart. Like, to this day, I can't remember how to spell his name. It's a really complicated last name. But he made his Instagram Studio JJK. I always remember that. Never have I forgotten. It's just so short and sweet. I would change your handle because I think it's too complicated. Oh, Kawther says, thank you so much. That's so helpful. I'm going to take everything under consideration. Wonderful. I hope that the critique was useful. All right. I really like this. Engineer turned artist. That, in a nutshell, makes you really unique and interesting, because not everybody is an engineer turned artist. A lot of engineers, a lot of artists, but a lot of people are not both. So I really like that. Okay, so you got pronouns. You're telling us you're a student. You may want to see if your school has an Instagram, because it does help to put your school's Instagram handle in there, because at least I don't know what AU Arts stands for. And so if you can, I would. This says board member at the Bows. I don't know what the Bows is. And so I'm not so sure, Vivian, that this is that important for your profile. If you wanted to, you could have an Instagram highlight that talks about your role as a board member at the Bows, but this is such precious real estate. You don't want to waste it on something like that. I mean, if you were a board member of MoMA, like everybody knows MoMA in the US, so that would make sense, but a lot of people don't know what the Bows is, so it's not really necessary. And here you're pointing to this exhibition that you're in. Again, I don't think you need this. I think most people, if they come to your Instagram and they see a link, they're probably going to tap on it because it's their website or something. So now I can come here and say, oh, okay, cool. This is an exhibition that you're in. Yeah, so that's great. This is so much text that I just think a lot of it's not necessary and you can get rid of it. Okay, let's read a little bit about Vivian's work. So Vivian says, I'm a multidisciplinary artist entering my 4th year BFA in Alberta University of the Arts. And she recently changed her major from ceramics to drawing, worked many years as an engineer in the oil and gas industry. Okay, now Vivian's work is about how the older woman views herself and how she fits into society. And she says older women are often overlooked and not included in the mainstream discourse. And Vivian's working with a lot of different materials, and she wants to build her Instagram following, but not having a lot of luck. I do think being an older woman is a drawback. And Vivian says, I'm not sure how to personalize my account when I'm not comfortable with video or photos of myself. And since my artist statement's about challenging stereotypes of older women, it seems a bit silly. I'm not actually using myself to try to challenge those stereotypes. And Vivian is asking, I wonder how many older women are on Instagram, want my content accessible to everyone, and older women already know the stereotypes aren't true. Absolutely. And I would say here, okay, so Vivian also says, I wonder about the name of my account. It's a bit of an awkward handle. Yeah, I would definitely change that. Tell me in the chat, who here follows an older female artist or just an older female, not necessarily an artist, Instagram account? Because there's a lot of them out there. I mean, I pulled up a whole bunch. This is Jenny Key, who is a fashion designer, and she's got a lot of followers, and her account doesn't have a million photos of her, but there's a bunch. And I love this photo. This is so cool. I mean, I think, Vivian, if you have a lot of fun with the photos and you make the photos engaging and you really like own yourself as an older woman, people will respond. And here's the other thing, though. You don't have to make it about you. You can certainly make it about older women without talking about it from a personal point of view. That's another option. However, I will tell you that voices do tend to be more powerful when people speak from personal experience. So, for example, this is a really cool account. It's called Grombre. Okay. So it's an Instagram that's all women that have gray hair to some certain degree. Okay. So the person that runs this account, it's not pictures of them. It's pictures of other women that are older celebrating their hair, which is awesome. And so I would say, Vivian, it's not so much that you have to put pictures of yourself, rather than you have to decide which way you want to go. Do you want to tell that story from your experience, or do you want something more like this, where you're talking about older women, but you're not using yourself as a reference? And either way is fine. One way is not better than another, because you can see what's cool about this account is seeing all these women is amazing. Okay. Then we have this person, Sarah Jane Adams, who's also an older female. And this account is all about her. It's not about other women. She's telling her own story. And so that's the difference, is you just have to decide which way you're going to go. Cosba Life says, many of the artists I follow are women over the age of 40. I am over the age of 40. And Amara says, can't remember any older women I follow. This really made me think. Tiago says, I follow a lot of older artists from a group that I'm participating in. Pink Lilacs does. So does Alice in Wonderland. Yep. Brittany says, when I was, yep. I think the thing to remember about all of this being an artist thing, there's a place for everybody, okay? But the thing is, you have to find that place. And if it doesn't exist, you have to make it yourself. That's the important thing. When I started Art Prof, everybody was thinking I was nuts. Why would you want to teach art online? Just teach a class on Skillshare. I got so much crap about it. And we stuck around and persisted. We're still here. And we made our own place. It was freaking hard to do that. It's much easier to find a category that's already out there and plug yourself in there. But Vivian, you can do this. So other concerns, challenging stereotypes of older women. Okay, that's a great statement, but I think you need to talk about what those stereotypes are, because the account that was about women with gray hair, that was about physical appearance, okay? You can also talk about women in the economy, women having ageism in the workplace. It's a great idea, Vivian, but it's so broad still. You got to really narrow it down, because specificity is what gets people excited about it. Like, we were just looking at Kawther's work. Kawther had calligraphy, but you saw a lot of us started to get interested when we realized, oh, the calligraphy has something to do with literature. It's not just calligraphy. Like, a lot of people do calligraphy, but how many people do it with Shakespeare? Not everybody. And so that's where you want to start to niche down to something a lot more specific. I would also say, at first glance, if I just go over the whole Instagram, I don't know that I see any work that jumps out to me as being about older women. And so I don't know where you are in terms of the development of that idea, or if it's something you're thinking about but haven't done yet. But I would say, if that's something you want to do, really start pushing it in here. So let me break down some of the individual posts. So cloud practice, had a lot of fun using intense colors with Posca markers. You're welcome for the reference photos. Why is that empty? That's strange. Okay, so it's a landscape. Okay, this is more cloud stuff. Okay. By the way, if you all want to learn how to paint clouds, just Google JMW Turner clouds. That dude painted so many clouds and they're amazing. I would also look up John Constable. Oh, those clouds are so good. Like, it makes you really want to paint them. Okay, this is about the exhibition. COVID King is the first thing that I see. And it seems like this is a recurring image. Okay. I feel like I saw it down here as well. That plague doctor image. I'm just curious to see. Okay. So it seems like it's a theme that you've been developing for a little while. C. Cantrell says, I agree, Prof, because ageism is barely addressed in our culture and we don't know how to crack the code yet. Yep. Vivian, you're going to contribute to this. You can make older women more visible because it's infuriating. Older women are awesome. We're so cool, aren't we? I mean, I don't know that I necessarily fit, although it depends on what's your definition of older women. I mean, I'm definitely not 20 anymore. But I mean, you do start to notice things as you get older. And I think you will find, Vivian, there's a lot of people out there who are going to see themselves and what you're saying in your artist statement. But you have to put it out there. If you don't put it out there, you're not going to get the response. Linda says, are people able to comment with pics on posts or just words on Instagram? Pink Lilac says, one thing I love is when I decide to follow an account because I like the art is finding out the who behind the art. Some are nothing I imagine. 186532. Yeah. I don't know, Vivian, that you're going to get the negative reception about being older that you think you will. And the thing is, you don't really know until you do it. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there. There is one photo of you on the account here. Had a chance to show my work at the airport showcase. Okay, so this is great. Having your work up here on the screen. Okay. This is actually, you know what, in this carousel, Vivian, I would do this one as the first image because you can see the artwork more clearly. I think in the first one, I see you first, and I don't notice the artwork until I read the caption. And that's a photo thing. That's not because your work isn't good. It's just the photo, the emphasis is on the person. Most of us will look at the person before we look at the background. So what I would say, do this as the first image, do this as the second, and do this one as the third. Because in a carousel, the order does matter. Mostly it's just the first image. Once you get past the first image and people are swiping, you're fine. But the thing is, you have to hook them to have a reason to want to swipe. And that's what's very challenging about that. I mean, I would say out of the images, this is the one that starts to be about figurative themes and women, but it doesn't seem like it's about older women. It's about vaccination. And this is a beautiful design. I mean, you got a great sense of color. I think your color is really outstanding. This is a beautiful shot. Does everybody see the diagonal? When you have like a really deliberate diagonal, it really helps. I think what's strange is when it like almost lines up with the edge of the photo, it oftentimes looks very awkward, but this is a great work in progress image. And this is a nice close-up of your brush. So this is a tube of acrylic paint since the early 90s. With COVID, I pulled up my painting supplies. The color of this blue is so saturated and beautiful. Yeah, this is a great caption. Like, this caption is really specific. It's not just some tube paint. It's a very particular type of tube. You know what would be fun is to have a video of you squirting a little bit out. I think that might be a nice addition to this carousel. Okay, and it seems like you have a bunch of still lives. I would also caution about criticizing yourself on Instagram because I know we all feel this way. It's very honest, but I think once you start to read that over and over again on an Instagram, it starts to get a little bit uncomfortable. So here, Vivian says, I'm kind of disappointed with how this turned out, to be honest. It looks stiff. The carton is a bit of an angle, which shouldn't have been the case. I definitely learned a few things in this series. So you can take a more positive spin. You can start by saying, I learned a lot. Here are some of the things I learned, instead of like critiquing yourself. I totally believe in the critique process and critiquing yourself. That's very important. Okay. But I think on Instagram, you have to frame it a little bit differently. Oh, Cerulean, I think you're the artist, right? I'm sorry. Everybody has different names across the platforms. I can't always remember who is who. So I'm sorry if I totally messed that up or if you're wrong. Well, so here, like Amer says, why was she disappointed by this? It looks very good. Yeah. So it's like we look at our work and all we see is what's wrong. That's what I do. Like I was having this dilemma this morning. Okay. So we're doing a lot of experiments at Art Prof. We're shaking it up a little bit. We're trying different video formats. And I keep going back and looking at the shorts I did 2 weeks ago. Oh, why didn't I should have. And part of me wants to just delete everything and only have the quote perfect stuff, whatever that's supposed to mean. But I'm like, if I did that, I'd have nothing on the channel. And I do think people like seeing the learning curve. I do think it's fun for all of you to laugh at our older videos where we just sucked at everything. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's not that fun, but we get a good chuckle out of it. But I would just say, Vivian, for you, you might look at this and cringe because, oh gosh, I should have gotten this better. But for a lot of people, they don't even think about that. So until you mention that, nobody's going to have that thought. And again, it's like you want a positive spin on that. Miranda says, something to think about is not just the lack of exposure for mature female art, is the other end, that sexualization of the younger female artists. This is just a mirror of society, I feel. I mean, unfortunately, if you paint in a bikini and you're young, people will perk up and notice. I mean, I know that I've seen people on Twitch who paint with pretty revealing clothes. It's not an accident that people watch that. It's infuriating, but it's true. But you don't have to fall into that. I mean, you can take really good photos of yourself that show truly who you are. Deb Beauty says, how do I use Instagram to record digital art? Is it best to screen record from the computer? It really depends on what you're doing. I don't know if you're using Procreate or Premiere or what type of content you're doing. I am finding now that I am using my laptop less and less for video stuff. I installed this app the other day. It's called Video Leap. And I was like, wow, this is so easy. So for those YouTube shorts and TikTok videos, I'm like, I don't think it's worth using Premiere because I use Premiere a lot, but it's almost overkill for how simple some of those TikTok videos are. And so I would say most likely, whatever it is you're trying to do, there's probably an app out there that does it pretty easily, because I just find like going back and forth between my laptop and my phone, it doesn't take that long, but it's just like another hurdle that I don't really want to deal with. Vitamin says, my mom, 52, has finally picked up a brush again. She's crazy good. I'm both proud and jelly, but the ageism has really dampened her belief that she's able to pursue art professionally. I mean, it's frustrating. It infuriates me that if you are not making it in the New York art scene by the time you're 35, you're not cool enough anymore. It really makes me mad. But I think the internet has changed that. I think that you no longer need someone's approval to put your work out there. And you can see there are people who have really made a place for themselves. It's just, it takes a ton of work. I mean, that's the thing, is it's a lot easier to fit in somewhere. Yeah, like Eduardo says, DaVinci Resolve is also a free video editing app. And Apollo says Procreate. Yep, you can do time lapses in Procreate, which are wonderful. San K says, I have a lot of mixed feelings about Instagram because of Facebook data, privacy issues. Is there really no other option for art promotion? There are, but they're really expensive and not very fast. I mean, I've had people say, I don't want to be online. How do I promote? I'm like, you could go print out some hard copy mailers, see who pays attention, go ahead, but it's just part of the package here, unfortunately. I'll tell you, Vivian, if I navigate your whole Instagram, let me just tell you the pieces that I'm the most compelled by. is this your work? Finally finished the window art I was doing for Chinook Blast. The art is visual representation of Dr. Marina Gavrilo's research on biometrics and digital identity. Dr. Gavrilo was fantastic to work with. This is really cool, Vivian. I don't know who Dr. Marina Gavrila is, but this to me speaks to being an older woman. I'm going to assume if you have a PhD, you're not 18. And I think this is wonderful. I'm wondering, did you design this in Procreate or Photoshop? Because, oh, I see. This is like a mock-up. I'm assuming that's what it was. So you might want to make this into a carousel and have another image where it's just the design and we don't see it actually in the context of an environment. But I love this. Like, this really says a lot about your subject matter. And it's so cool that you worked with her. You can see it in the downtown core along with some amazing research or local artists' work. Oh, I love this. This is great. You should do more of this. And then I would also say, I really like this technique. Okay, so this is the art dare, jelly plate printing, silver acrylic ink. I love the layering is beautiful. And also the line work is so elegant. I don't think this is a great photo though, because it's like super tilted and it's actually very out of focus in the upper right. So you probably want to change that. So definitely have some zoom ins though, because I love the texture. This is a beautiful piece too. You're really good at layering, Vivian, putting colors on top of each other. Like, I think that your most exciting work has that level of transparency to it. Like, I actually love this. This is really compelling. And I know this is from a life drawing class, but it does somewhat feel related to this theme of older women. And you can run with that. I mean, I know it was a life drawing class, but maybe you do more studies on that. Yeah, and some of these other ones, I mean, this feels more like a study, and it's hilarious. But this is Instagram highlight material. And also, you know, not great to have this here because it's not cropped. Like I said, you either make it obviously a work in progress, like messy stuff everywhere, or you crop it really nice and neat. Yeah, so Cerulean says, going back to the image about the doctor and the window art, I think I missed it. Here. Yes, she's older. I designed it in Photoshop, but it is a real photo of the window. Oh, I guess I was confused about the person in here. Is the person in the design? I guess the person made me think it was a mock-up because oftentimes you mock it up and then you like put a person in for scale. So that's what confused me about that. What would be better is to have a real person in the photo so you can see, okay, what does this really look like? So just make sure that's really clear because I thought it was a mock-up based on the way the photo's done. And Cerulean's confirming, yes, she is older. And so obviously you'd have to talk to the doctor about this, but how cool would it be if this carousel had an image of the doctor, maybe a picture of her in her lab, maybe pictures of her work or something related? Because if you want to talk about older, she's an older woman. I mean, there you go. That sounds really cool. Tiago says, what about making videos for Instagram TV? I'm recording the process from a sculpture with DSLR camera. I actually do not have the headspace for Instagram TV. Like, I'm barely getting through TikTok and Instagram Reels. So you'll have to research that. I don't have a lot of personal experience to speak from. But I will tell all of you here, if you're thinking about producing videos for any platform, it's way harder than it looks. I know it looks like we just throw stuff together here, but it's a lot of work to make it not look terrible. So I would just make sure that you understand there's going to be a big learning curve, unless you went to film school or something like that. Sarah says, just want to say, really grateful for all this amazing content. It's free and comes from a person who's so passionate about art. Thanks for doing what you do. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for being here and for hanging out with us, because I love it. It's just so much fun. We have a comment from Nicole who says, been working with an artist. I've been helping him with his Instagram. He isn't comfortable with sharing finished art pieces. Any advice on how I should go about it? Tell him he's not ready. I mean, if you're not comfortable sharing the work, don't do Instagram. That's what I'm saying. It's like, if you are not comfortable posting your work or showing your face or whatever you're putting on Instagram, it's going to show. People can tell when you're a little bit on the fence about it. And so you have to just say, I'm going to do it or I'm not. Because if you end up doing it halfway, it's more awkward and it's more of a problem for you long term when you're just being sort of evasive, if that makes any sense. It's very strange. It's like, I've been on websites where I'll say to people, listen, on your about page, you really should have a picture of yourself. And people will have a picture and it's like they're painting outdoors and their whole face is in shadow. That's worse. Like, I'd rather have no photo than a photo where I can't see your face. That's more frustrating. And so you got to just make a decision to own it in a way. Okay. And you don't have to be on Instagram. If it's not something that you're going to like, it's not going to be a good experience. So this is how I feel. So for example, as I said before, we are just getting started with TikTok. Okay. And with TikTok, for the longest time, I held out. Number one, because I don't have the headspace for it. I still don't, but I have to get on there because it seems like we can't wait any longer. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from the audience saying, hey, get on TikTok. And so we're listening to all of you, of course, because you all know better than me what you need. So we're on TikTok. And I will be totally honest. Okay. When I got on TikTok, my first reaction was, rolling my eyes. I know I'm an old fart. Okay. I totally own that. Okay. I am not Gen Z. I did not grow up with TikTok. And the whole concept of a short video like we're doing on YouTube, oh my God, I just could not wrap my head around it. And for the longest time, I just kept saying like, oh, I hate this. This is so annoying. Like, why do I need to cut these short videos when they're losing the depth of the content and people need to learn how to understand stuff beyond 7 seconds? Like, I was really resentful of that. Okay. I'll be honest, that's true. Okay. But at a certain point, I thought, you know what, Clara, that's a rotten attitude. I was like, you can't be on a platform and resent it. I was like, I got to find a way to make it fun for myself. And so I've been editing a lot of shorts. I've been playing around. And I posted one the other day that was from the sketchbook stream that Deepti and I did, where I ended up tearing up a whole bunch of my old photographs and scraping. And I had so much fun. Oh my God, it was great. And when I did that, I thought, oh, this would be really good as a YouTube short. And I took it as a challenge. I said, how much of the process can I encapsulate in 15 seconds to show the scope, all the different steps, the cutting, the pasting, how can I do that? Can I sum it up really succinctly? And when I started thinking about it like that, as like a challenge to my video editing skills, then it got fun. Okay. So you got to embrace it. And if you don't want to do that, don't do it. I'm very much, I think you could all tell, an all or nothing person. I'm like all in, or I'm like, I'm not going to do it. Okay. And so that's what you have to decide with these social media platforms, because it doesn't work. Brittany says, TikTok makes me feel old. Slepnir says, we need to have a cranky old people video. Well, you're not the only one, because I look at TikTok and I'm like, what is this planet? This is an alien planet. I don't speak the language. I don't know where anything is. And it's really been messing with me because I spend so much time teaching things to people. I know this sounds weird, but I like forget how hard it is to learn something new and to improve and get better. And I was like, my head hurts from trying to like learn TikTok. And thank goodness I have Mia Rozier, who does our Instagram and YouTube comments, and she's been a lifesaver. Like, she's been sending me the trends and telling me ideas that I could do, how to translate it. And this is the other thing that really made me feel old, is like my music knowledge like stopped after college. And so a big part of TikTok is the music. And I was like, oh my God, I need somebody who's Gen Z to tell me what music is hip, because I can't just keep playing music from the 90s. I can't just play Nine Inch Nails for every single video. And so, yeah, it's like you really have to own that part of it. Cerulean says, I've been really feeling COVID and all the restrictions. We're still having a tough time with it up here in Canada. Yeah, there's a big range of how COVID is right now in a lot of the countries. Adam says, Prof Lieu, think about the shorts as bait. From the viewer's perspective, I think that's the whole point. Reel them in to your ship of knowledge by hooking them with the shorts. That's how I'm starting to think about it, because yeah, it bothers me that I have to do all this extra work. But you're right. I mean, it's another tool, and you have to change your mindset about that. Some really funny comments about TikTok. Lourdes says, honestly, TikTok makes me feel old and I'm 20. All right, everybody. I would love for you to join me in the Art Prof Discord. Oh, sorry, not in the Art Alongs channel. Let me change that right now. Sorry about that. We're going to be in the post live streams channel. Pull that up again. There we go. Post live streams channel. The Discord invite link is in the YouTube video description below. Subscribe to the Art Prof YouTube channel so you can continue to grow and develop as an artist. Actually, I'd love to chat more about TikTok because I'm still struggling with it. It's going to be a big learning curve. And thank you so much to our top Patreon supporters. You all make it possible for us to keep our content 100% free. And when you support Art Prof, you're supporting somebody in the world who can't afford to take an art class. And this benefits the entire community tremendously. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.